Well, howdy there, Internet students. It's Mr. Hermanson again. Say this is a Chapter 7 retake prep. I'm going to do a problem for you, and then you're going to do a couple on your own. And you're going to message me if you still aren't understanding it, and we'll go over it some more. But first question asks, which equation describes a proportional relationship? In order to have a proportional relationship, the values 0, 0 have to make it true. Okay, so if you remember the first number is x, the second number is y when you write an ordered pair. If you put in 0 for x, so if I take negative 13 times 0, if your answer is 0, then that's the proportional one. So the first one actually works on this one. Okay, the other ones, if you put in 0 here for x and then added 1, it would equal 1. In this one, if you put in 0 for x here, you'd get 0 plus 7, which is 7. So you don't get 0 for your answer. All right? Down here on number 2, it says which table shows a proportional relationship. Well, remember what I said about the 0, 0 thing. If it doesn't start at 0, 0, if that's not in the table, then it's not proportional. So see here how we have 0, 5. No go. 0, 4, no go. Now that might not be enough. You have to check one more thing. You have to make sure that there's some common ratio. So I would do 5 over 1 minutes over miles, and 10 minutes 2 miles, and make sure I get the same thing. It's 5 minutes per mile, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. You always get 5 when you do that. And just one more thing on that, the equation for that then is 5 minutes per mile, so you would just take 5 times x, 5 times the number of miles to get the number of minutes. All right. Number 3 asks, which situation is proportional? Sarah bought several bottles of pop for $1.50 each. I'm just going to write this in equations since we already know what equations look like. It's $1.50 times the number of bottles of pop that you buy, because we don't know how many she did, plus what she spent on the candy bar. Whenever you have an extra thing added on like that, that's not proportional. So let's go ahead and cross that one out. Okay, the second one says she bought 1 bottle of pop for $1.50. So we know she didn't spend more than, she didn't buy any more than 1 bottle of pop, plus 65 cents for the candy bar, which is $2.15 total. That means that the amount that she has, the amount that she's spending to start with is $2.15, so it's not 0. And the last one says Sam bought a bunch of pop for $1.50. So we're going to multiply $1.50 times however many pops he bought and add 75 cents. Whenever we're adding something extra on like we did in these, that's not going to be proportional. All you can do is multiply some number by the total number. See, if we didn't have this plus 75 cents, then my table would be $0, 0 pops. 1 pop, $1.50. 2 pops, $3. But if we add on the pack of gum for 75 cents, then even if I buy 0 pops, I still have to pay for the gum for 75 cents. So we're not going to have 0, 0. Now we would add $1.50 for 1 bottle, and then we would just keep doing that. Another $1.50 for the next bottle. It would keep going up by $1.50 per bottle. All right. Number 4, we're going to try and figure out which graph shows proportional relationship. Again, remember it has to have the point 0, 0 in it, which is right in the middle of the graph, right there. So we know this one is B. All right. Which equation would make this table? Now we're writing equations. Notice this is a proportional relationship. We get And when we divide our output by our input, we always get 10. 10 divided by 1 is 10. 20 divided by 2 is 10. That means our equation is 10 times whatever our x value is. 10 times 0 is 0. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 would be 30. This is not any of these equations. Okay? Now, just to help you out one more time, let's say you saw this equation and you wanted to make the table for it. When x is 0, if you do 2 times 0, you would get 0 plus 10 is 10. It would start at 10. So whatever you're adding on, this one would also start at 10, and so would this one. Okay. Now, we have to multiply by 2. 0 times 2 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 10 is 12. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 10 is 14. So the times 2 makes this go up by 2 every time. All right, when we look at a graph, we want to look for two things. We want to look for the slope, and we want to look for the y-intercept. When we write an equation, like we've been doing, the slope, which we a lot of times use the letter m for that, goes in front of the x. It's your coefficient of your equation. And the y-intercept is what you add on. So when we look at this graph, the place where it crosses the y-axis, this thing right here, I'm going to put a red dot there. Right there. That's places crossing the y-axis. That's 0. And then the slope is the rise over run thing between the points. So you want to see how far up it is, and then how far over. I went up 5 over 2, so my slope is, you can write it two ways, either 5 over 2 or divide it out would be 2.5. But the one that's equation is right here, so that slope is going to be where the m is, in front of the x. And then you would add the y-intercept, which in this case is 0. But when you add 0, that's just kind of extra work if you write that, because adding 0 doesn't change it. So we can just write 5/2 x and put that for our answer right there. All right. Which is the graph of the equation? So now we're kind of doing this by looking at this. We want to find a line with a y-intercept of 5. That's 5 on the y-axis, which is right here, 5 above the 0. And that's the only one that has that. Then the other part is the slope is -2. And you get that from a rise and run. That means, notice between these dots, I'm dropping down 2 and going over 1. Like that. I'll just write these other two equations so you can kind of get the hang of it here. This y-intercept is 3. And our slope is the same as the last one. That -2 over 1. Which we just write as -2. So I would write -2/3 x plus, whoops, that should be a -3, sorry about that. Because that y-intercept is 3 below the x-axis, so -3, so you would write -3 in the equation. For this one, it's -3 in the equation again, that's your y-intercept, but this slope is in a positive direction, it's going up 2 over 1. So you would write 2x for that one. All right. To write an equation of a situation, you want to look for two things. A lot of times we use the letters y and x, but you want to look for the slope, which is, I'll just write this down here, in the situation will be your rate, the thing that changes depending on how many you have. Okay, so remember we're looking for a rate for that number. And the b part is like the extra added on, or the starting value. Okay, So the fact that this doctor gets $100 per hour, that's his rate of pay. So that goes where the M is. All right, so we need a coefficient of 100. And the only equation that has a coefficient of 100 is this first one. Now notice that we added 500 because 500 is he just gets paid that once for the weekend. Okay, so that's going to get added on to his $100 per hour for pay. All right, so go ahead and finish those up and send me a picture of your work, and if it looks good, I'll get that test to you. Message me if you have questions.